Someone recently emailed me and asked me a very simple question. Why does Kishimoto, the mangaka of Naruto, hate his main character so much? And naturally, I was intrigued, considering the fact that I believe Naruto has afforded more opportunities than anybody else in his own story. Well, yes, obviously, he's been through a whole lot. You'd be lying to yourself and or a terrible reader if you couldn't acknowledge the fact that Naruto's also given probably more than anybody else in the universe not named Sasuke Uchiha. But apparently, this wasn't the problem. See, because this email didn't take up a pitchfork to the idea that Naruto was orphaned on the day of his birth, scorned by the girl that he had a crush on, or rejected by the society that he was born to lead. No, rather its problem was that Naruto doesn't use half the abilities that he should be able to. Obviously, in the Naruto community, there's a well-known meme that Naruto Rasengans his way through every problem he faces. And in the rare circumstance where a Rasengan doesn't work, Naruto just convinces his opponent to end their own life. And this stems from the fact that Naruto doesn't show a whole lot of diversity in his jutsu selection. I mean, when you really boil it down, Naruto's only really got 3 jutsus: Shadow Clones, Tailed Beast transformations, and, of course, the Rasengan. But by the time that Naruto as a story comes to its end, Naruto has access to way more abilities than just these 3. After all, Naruto has access to more elemental releases than anybody else in his universe, with a staggering 11 affinities. Those being all 5 basic elemental releases: Yin release, Yang release, Yin-yang release, Boil, Magnet, and Lava release. And thus, as a literal walking ninjutsu affinity library, one would assume that Naruto would be able to use a roster of jutsus. However, even after Shippuden, where Naruto got the majority of these affinities in stories like the light novels, Naruto the Last, and Boruto, we once again only see him using jutsus that he's known for. But why is it like this? Why is Naruto one of the greatest ninjutsu users of all time, who has access to 11 chakra affinities and a possible 12 if you count the fact that he probably should have wood release, only ever shown using the Shadow Clones, Rasengans, and their variants? Is it because he doesn't have the ability to use other jutsus? Is it because he never tried to learn those other jutsus? Or is it maybe because Kishimoto hates him? Well, today we're going to be answering all those questions and a whole lot more, because today we're talking Kishimoto hates Naruto. And listen, I'm sorry that I sound like this, okay? This is what a month of vacation and friends does to your voice. I'm going home today. We'll be back to the regular backdrop and my regular voice after I maybe spend the entire day yelling about the Patriots Super Bowl. I know it sounds bad, but like this is the last one. And if you want an additional NC Hammer 23 video every single week, guys, you can go ahead and find my Naruto reaction series in the 4th wall link in the description below. Help me pay for a throat lozenge or 2. So, Naruto has 11 nature transformations, and yet we never really see him using any of them in any creative way, especially now in the Boruto timeline. Because if we're being real with ourselves, it feels as though Naruto has almost regressed in terms of the jutsus he uses in Boruto comparatively to his Shippuden self. I mean, Shippuden Naruto used things like his lava release Rasen Shuriken, his magnet release Rasengan for sealing limbo clones, and crazy iterations of his Jinchuriki transformations to achieve what seemed to us at the time to be 100% of his potential power. So what's happened? Has Naruto taken a step back? Well, no, not really. See, in a post-Shippuden world, we've actually seen Naruto dip into his nature transformations. As in Boruto and other post-4th grade Shinobi World War media, we've seen Naruto add one of his 3 Kekkei Genkai to things like his Rasengan or his Rasen Shuriken, something he mastered after becoming a pseudo-Ten-Tails Jinchuriki in the 4th War. And this is also the evidence that a lot of people use to argue the fact that Naruto still has access to his 6 Paths chakra, meaning that adult Naruto is still the 6 Path sage that he was during the 4th grade Shinobi World War. That, and also the fact that he has, in Boruto, acted as a meeting place for the still human-friendly tailed beast. But unfortunately, if anything, that's kind of an indictment on Naruto's lack of arsenal. See, because we now know, canonically, that Naruto, up until potentially his loss of Kurama, still had access to the powers of all of the tailed beasts. That is to say, all of the tailed beasts that had a Kekkei Genkai: Son Goku, Kukyo, and Shukaku. That is to say, hypothetically, up until the loss of Kurama, Naruto still had access to 3 very powerful Kekkei Genkai. We also believe, because we've never explicitly been told, that he still had access to his Sage of 6 Paths powers. And yet Naruto, since the ending of the 4th grade Shinobi World War, has never really tried to dip back into either of those power wells with any creativity whatsoever. But why? See, because one could, and probably should, argue that Naruto could tap into any 3 of these Kekkei Genkai to increase his already ludicrous strength to levels that we previously thought were unimaginable. For example, with Boil Release. Well, it's highly unlikely that Naruto would ever use Boil Release like somebody like Mei, the 5th Mizukage, that is to say, creating steam that is either corrosive, just incredibly hot in his mouth, and spewing it at opponents with the hopes of melting their skin directly off their bones. I could, however, see a universe where, hypothetically, Naruto used Boil Release like Han, the Jinchuriki of Kukyo, the Five Tails. See, for those of you who don't remember, Han was said to be one of the greatest practitioners of taijutsu on the planet. 1, because of his hulking size, and 2, because of his Boil Release, or as he called it, his Steam Release. See, because Han's Steam Release was derived from Kukyo's Boil Release, and thus he would use it twofold. The first way was to create an all-encompassing veil of steam around him that would operate effectively as a suit of armor that enemies would have to burn themselves to get through. And the second way he would use it was circulating the steam that he was creating around his body to boil his chakra. Now, while boiling your chakra sounds like why the 8th gate kills you, that's because it kind of is. See, hot chakra is stronger than cold chakra. It flows faster and it's more powerful. This is why Naruto and all the other Jinchuriki, when they enter into their lower forms of Jinchuriki transformations, that is to say version 1 and version 2, are said to be hot. So hot that in the version 2 form of their Jinchuriki transformation, the reason that the version 2 Jinchuriki transformation is so dark red is because the Jinchuriki inside of that transformation is actually having their skin boiled off. And therefore it's their boiling blood and skin that makes that transformation and that chakra so dark. It's really all about density at the end of the day. The chakra is so dense and therefore it's superheated. The higher the pressure of something, the hotter it is. That is to say, if it's gaseous, and chakra is usually referred to as a gaseous state. This is also why level 1 Jinchuriki transformations are often seen as literally boiling. Han, however, didn't have to worry about boiling his own skin off, because he was able to control the temperature of his chakra in a controllable and augmentable way that allowed for him to guide hot, high-pressure chakra to key parts of his body that would allow for him to increase the strength of his blows at precise moments. So why can't Naruto, who should have Kukyo's Boil Release, do exactly this? Well, because he may not have Boil Release. See, yes, at one point we know that Naruto had access to Kukyo's Boil Release. But we also know after the conclusion of the 4th Great Shinobi World War, some tailed beasts, one of which was Kukyo, severed their connection to humanity. And therefore, there really is no reason for Kukyo to continue granting Naruto access to Boil Release. But even if Naruto did still have access to it, there would also be very little utility in using it in the way that Han did, on account of the fact that Naruto's KCM2 mode, his full body tailed beast transformation, operates differently from every other tailed beast transformation we've ever seen. And it operates effectively exactly how Han was using his Steam Release, as Naruto covers his entire body with ultra high density chakra from Kurama. And therefore, because it's high density chakra, it's also high temperature chakra. And while maybe, yes, if he used Boil Release in combination with his KCM2 mode, there's a possibility he could maybe push his strength even further. There's a reason that when Han wanted to get truly serious in combat, he either underwent his full Jinchuriki transformation or just any transformation in general. And that is that a Jinchuriki transformation was always a better way of coating his body with high density chakra as opposed to his Steam Release. Not to mention how Naruto uses Boil Release, that is to say through the medium of a Rasen Shuriken or a Rasengan, is as ineffective of a delivery method of Boil Release we've ever seen. And in many circumstances, considering the speed at which a Rasengan or a Rasen Shuriken can be delivered, and considering the destructive force that comes along with either a Rasengan or a Rasen Shuriken hitting an opponent, delivering Boil Release with Naruto's standard jutsu is not only more devastating, but also usually faster than trying to deliver it through the medium of blowing it out of his mouth or something like that. However, unfortunately for Naruto, both of these lines of logic that we can use to explain why Naruto may not use Kukyo's Boil Release do not apply to his other 2 Kekkei Genkai. See, because there is truly no reason in Boruto for Naruto to not use both Magnet and Lava Release, on account of the fact that both Shukaku and Son Goku are still friendly with humanity. However, we have seen Naruto use Lava Release in his Rasengan in Boruto, and while he could coat himself in lava like Roshi, the original Jinchuriki jerky of Son Goku did in his battle against Naruto at the beginning of the war, which ensured that nobody, Naruto included, would be able to get a hold of him or land punches on him without incurring a serious burn, his Kurama mode transformation effectively accomplishes the exact same thing. Well, yes, it doesn't burn the people who try to grab or strike Naruto. The average caliber of person that Naruto is fighting against would not be deterred by lava release. It's kind of like how Gaara's mother's sand auto defense has been outscaled. The majority of people that Naruto is fighting nowadays either have chakra absorption abilities like Rinnegan palms or karma markings, and therefore could strip Naruto of any and all coverage that he had in terms of lava release, or they could attack with such speed and force that even if they were burned a little bit, the burn they would most likely be able to heal from, mind you, wouldn't act as nearly enough of a deterrence. I mean, even KCM 1 Naruto was barely burned by Roshi's lava release. And as for why we never see Naruto using magnet release, well, we do. I mean, yes, we haven't seen it since the 4th Great Shinobi World War when he used it against Madara's Limbo clones. That's because Naruto hasn't really had to fight against anybody he's either needed to or could immobilize. See, because, well, yes, there was an argument to be made that Naruto could use Shukaku's magnet release in more creative ways than just applying it to a Rasengan and then smashing somebody with that Rasengan, sealing their movements, even though this is apparently an incredibly effective way to immobilize high-power targets, as it was enough to immobilize something like one of Jubidara's Limbo clones. Really, at the end of the day, the only way we've ever seen magnet release used is either to control things that are magnetic or seal people or increase the density of your chakra within your sand. That one's like specific to Gaara. But considering that the magnet release that's displayed in the Kazekage clan, that is, say, the ability to control magnetic particles like gold and iron, isn't the kind of magnet release that Shukaku gave Naruto. No, Shukaku gave Naruto the sealing kind of magnet release, the cursed mark kind of magnet release. And therefore, whether it's a Rasengan or a Grand Sand Mausoleum, magnet release is always kind of effectively used in the exact same way. And while I'm not going to sit here and say that Naruto hasn't had some spots where he could have tried to seal one of his opponents, and even if he wasn't trying to seal them and rather was just trying to immobilize them for a couple of seconds to create an opening for either himself, one of his clones, or Sasuke to land a decisive blow, a strategy that probably would have been effective against Momoshiki, Jigen, Ishiki, Delta. It's also not crazy that he didn't try to do this, considering the fact that all 4 of the names I just listed, that is to say, all 4 of Naruto's most pertinent opponents in the Boruto timeline, all have some kind of chakra absorption ability. And since the curse marks that spread from magnet release are derived from chakra, they could be absorbed easily as they spread across the body. But maybe, just maybe, if Naruto were to aim his magnet release Rasengan at the arm that had the chakra absorption ability, that is to say that the arm that Jura had his karma marking on, or I guess both of Momoshiki's hands, well, I guess only one of Momoshiki's hands absorbs, the other fires out the absorbed jutsu. He could freeze the movement of that arm to ensure that they can no longer access their chakra absorption ability. And if Naruto had pulled off a move like that, he could have made all of those fights substantially easier for himself. That's a real gamble, and probably one that wouldn't have paid off, especially against Momoshiki, who most likely would have been able to simply absorb the curse marks and then fire them back, even more powerful. But alright, Nick, the Kekkei Genkai aren't the only abilities that Naruto's squandering, right? I mean, we haven't even touched the fact that he no longer uses Yin-yang release, which basically grants him infinite possibilities for jutsus, or Yin release, which could allow for him to use Genjutsu. And maybe the biggest question mark of all, Wood release, which he should feasibly be able to use because he has Earth, Water, and Yin-yang release, meaning he can combine the Earth and Water to create Wood release, but also because he has a Hashirama Cell right arm. And you're right about all of it. At some point in time, Naruto had access to Yin release, Yin-yang release, and he should currently have access to Wood release. And yet he uses none of it. So let's start with the worst offense, his squandering of Yin-yang release. For those of you who don't remember, because it was introduced at what I lovingly call the dumb part of the war arc, Yin-yang release is the combining of Yin release, which uses spiritual energy, and Yang release, which focuses on physical energy. Now, Yin release jutsus are usually jutsus that accomplish something that's not technically real, the most pertinent example being Genjutsu, while Yang release jutsus usually focus on augmenting your body in some kind of way, the best example being partial expansion jutsu. And by combining these two powers, Yin-yang release users are able to make imaginary things physical, like Izanagi, or at an even higher level, Hagoromo's creation of all things jutsu. You know, the one that made the tailed beasts. Now, Naruto is, or maybe was, known to have Yin-yang release. A, because he was able to use his Sun Seal to save Might Guy's life and fix Kakashi's lost eye, and B, because of his control over the Truth Seeker orbs. Maybe. See, because what makes the True Secret Orbs a Yin-yang jutsu is the fact that Naruto and every other Ten-Tails Jinchuriki was able to coat the True Secret Orbs in effectively a layer of chakra that made them invulnerable to any and all jutsu. This is why shields made out of the True Secret Orbs were impenetrable, and why they're able to smash through any and all other jutsu with ease. But anyways, all that is to say that those who have access to Yin-yang release are some of the most powerful people on Earth. And most importantly for this video, they're able to effectively accomplish anything in the realm of ninjutsu. So why hasn't Naruto kept doing that? Well, probably because he can't. Like I've said 1,000 times before, we have no idea if Naruto still has access to the Sage of Six Paths chakra. Many assume, up until the loss of Kurama, that he did, on account of the fact that he could still use the powers of the other tailed beasts. But that doesn't necessarily mean that he still had access to Yin-yang release. See, yes, Naruto can still use his True Secret Orbs in the battle against Sasuke, and that's important because the battle against Sasuke happens after his Sun Seal is gone. However, what we don't know about the True Secret Orbs that Naruto was using in that battle against Sasuke is if they had the jutsu destruction buff added to them that allowed for them to destroy any and all jutsus they came into contact with. After all, once the True Secret Orbs that he had in that fight were destroyed, they were never seen again, implying that those True Secret Orbs were never truly Naruto's, or he never had full control of them in the first place. And considering the fact that there have been plenty of times where Naruto probably would have loved to have an indestructible orb to float inside of, to hide from incoming attacks, or a lethal projectile that can't be absorbed through the powers of the Rinnegan or karma markings, him never busting out the True Secret Orbs ever again seems like a pretty good indicator to me that he can't. This would also explain why we never saw his Ninja Jesus healing ability again, as it was either tied to the finite amount of Six Paths chakra granted to him by Hagoromo, similar to how Obito granted Kakashi the last vestiges of his Six Paths chakra, or because it was tied to his Sun Seal, which he lost the second he sealed Kaguya. But if Naruto did still have Yin-yang release, it would make the lack of his wood release usage even more egregious. See, while I have answers as to why Naruto doesn't use all of the elemental releases that he at least at one point had access to, I honestly have no answer as to why Naruto, A, doesn't have wood release, and B, if he does have wood release, why he wouldn't use it. See, a lesser understood aspect of Yin-yang release is that Yin-yang users are able to combine two basic elemental releases to create really any KKG that they want, Kenken Genkai, which is how Moeki is able to use wood release. Yes, Moeki is a Yin-yang release user, and it's assumed that this is how Sasuke has access to ice release. And considering the fact that Naruto has earth, water, and maybe Yin-yang release, he too should be able to do this, but he doesn't. Not to mention, it's been shown multiple times with Madara, Obito, Yamato, that a successful transplant of Hashirama cells is able to give the person that those cells are transplanted onto access to sometimes a lesser version of wood release, sometimes a full strength version of wood release, and it begins to make less and less sense that Naruto, who has a full arm made out of Hashirama's cells, would not have wood release. See, because if Naruto did have access to wood release, it would give him access to some things he would be able to use immediately to get stronger, like access to, canonically, the strongest clones in the entire universe, wood clones. It would allow for him to grab people with roots under their feet, halting their movement for a second and creating openings for him to attack. Not to mention the inherent chakra absorption abilities of wood release would give him an advantage in battles against the Ten-Tails Jinchurikis, probably the Shinju. And thus, while I may have an answer for a lot of these holes in Naruto's arsenal, unfortunately, I got nothing for wood release. So all that is to say, in summary, why isn't Naruto's bag deeper? Well, because he may not have access to a lot of the abilities he once did, or because the abilities that he could use, like accessing any of the 5 basic elemental chakra releases, have been massively outscaled, or because he does still have access to these jutsus, he just hasn't found the opportunity to use them in any meaningful capacity in all of his most important fights. See, while it might seem silly, Naruto's 1 million Rasengan system is actually probably the most effective way for him to fight. And adding in other factors like long-range ninjutsu or possibly genjutsu would only complicate and therefore probably water down his brute force fighting style. See, Naruto is a shotgun with teeth, and he's not the kind of person to meticulously plan exactly what he's going to do in combat. The application of any kind of elemental release to a Rasengan is one of the most impressive ninjutsu feats we've ever seen. And therefore, while we'd all love to see Naruto bust out something like a Sage Art mouth laser that Madara used, at the end of the day, that kind of thing just isn't Naruto's fighting style. But I'm curious to hear from you guys. If there's one jutsu you would have loved to see Naruto use, what would it be and why? Tell me in the comments below. And while you guys are down there, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going home.